What's up, guys? Last DayZ Mods here. Back at you after a long pause. Sorry, I was very busy with the updates and all of the new stuff that Bohemia threw at us with the new update 1.14. But I am back with a new video, and I do want to cover a topic that I get a lot of requests for. And I should mention up front, this is a very in-depth build. We're not going to be, or not necessarily build, but what we're going to work on is a deathmatch server from start to finish, and uh, we're going to mod a lot of files. So there's really just no way. I mean, nobody wants to sit and listen to me talk for 3 hours. So this is going to be broken up into a couple different videos to get this done. I'm going to try to tackle the most time-consuming one first. What we're going to work on today, which is getting our buildings and everything separated so that we have loot only spawning in the buildings of our area. So if you're not familiar with deathmatch servers, essentially what it is you pick a specific area. A lot of people use the military bases, and you spawn a bunch of weapons in there, maybe some food or some starter kits, and everybody spawns into that area, picks up a weapon, and fight to the death, and you go until you get bored of it. So I really like those. These are my favorite things to build. I do a lot of custom ones with custom buildings and custom maps. Just recently released a night vision maze deathmatch, which you can definitely check out. Put a link to the Discord to that one, and you can hop on and play that. We've been having a lot of fun with that. So this one we're going to work on in particular is going to be in the town of Gorka, and it's going to be pretty involved because there's a lot of buildings here and a lot of area. Now, if you are a Last DayZ OG and you remember the very first Last DayZ server, um, you'll remember that Gorka was our safe zone, and I can't even count how many people I banned for shooting in the safe zone. So I've long since wanted to do a death match in Gorka so all the Last DayZ OGs could finally go and shoot up the safe zone with no penalty. So here we go. Let's get into this first and look at the file that we need to mod. Now, I've already downloaded this for the sake of time. So what you want to do is you want to get into your Nitrado, and if you're starting with a fresh server, just use the vanilla files. And I've already got them pulled up here. These are the two that we want right here. This map group POS or map group positions, and the map group proto or map group prototype. So save a file or save a copy in here, and then you want to save a backup copy as well as your original. So I always put one in here in the OG, and actually I guess I should save that in the OG. And we're going to do something a little bit different with these. Um, Hold on, let me. I've already done this, but let's take a look first. We're gonna work with the map group POS one first and cover a lot of ground. So what this file is, let's take a look and let me kind of explain what this file is and what it does. So this is the position of every single loot generating structure on the entire map. Um, you find things in here like this, the third or fourth building down here is a little feed shack. Actually, the first two are feed shacks. Every building, every house, every military tent that spawns loot is going to be listed in this file. And so it starts with the name as it appears not in game, not what you would be used to. You're not going to see like piano house or um, Tizzy headquarters or whatever. You're going to need to know this file. I'm going to show you how to find that, or not file, but you're going to need to know the name of these buildings. But I'll show you how to get that. It's really easy. And then over here we have the coordinates on the iSurvive map. These are the coordinates of each and every building. The RPY here, that is important for custom buildings. For the sake of what we're doing, don't worry about anything over here to the right. All we're worried about right now is going to be the name of the building and the coordinates for the building. Okay, so the very first thing that you want to do, and let me just say this as well. There are a lot of different ways to go about this. I'm comfortable with the way I do it. I consider myself very thorough and organized about it. And so you don't have to do it this way. I'm going to show you kind of a couple different ways, but I'm going to be focusing on how I would do it. Okay, so I will insert when there's other ways to do it aside from the way that I'm doing it. I'll insert in there that, you can do it this way, but this is what I do. So just a forewarning there. So here's what I do. You don't have to do this, but I do this. And I think it's very helpful, and I'll tell you why. So what we're going to do is we've made a backup of this. So we've made the OG, and this is the one in OG. And then over here, I have made another backup. And you'll see here, I've actually made a template this is the actual folders that I'm using for the deathmatch. And I've got this folder here called empty files. And you'll see I've got a map group POS in there. And let me just show you what that looks like. Boom, totally empty. So what I've done, and I'll show you why as we move along. Don't freak out yet. So what I've done is I literally have deleted every single entry in the map group POS and saved a version of it here that's totally blank. Okay, so again, you want to have multiple versions of this. You don't want to do that to the only one that you have, because then you've got nothing. So save a copy and paste, maybe make yourself a folder like I did that says empty files, copy and paste a version in there, open it up, and in between the word map, delete every single entry and leave it empty just like I did. Okay, so again, just so you know, you don't want to delete any of this stuff here, leave all that in. But all of the entries here, delete all of those and save that separate. And we'll get back to that in a moment. So now we want to save another version of this. We want 3 versions total. You want the vanilla version, the way it comes in the game. And then we're going to back this up in our, nope, not in there, excuse me. We're going to back this up. And this is going to be sort of our helper one in mods. Okay. Here's another version. Now I've already done this, so this one's done, but I'm going to show you what we're going to do. So you're going to have your original version. You're going to have a version here in mods, the one that you're modifying, and then you're going to have that totally empty one for later. Okay. So I hope that's not too confusing. Stick with me. I promise not to get too confusing. Again, there are different ways. You don't have to go crazy like I did there. To me, it just helps me stay organized doing that. So that's why I do it that way. And you'll see kind of what I mean as we go. So hopefully I've kind of explained that enough. And now let's dive into what we're actually going to do here. So let's open our file. So this is the vanilla version. This is exactly how it comes with the game if you were to open the game and start. So we're going to open iSurvive here. Okay. So iSurvive is open. And now we're going to go to Gorka. And we're going to look at a couple buildings. What we need to do is so here's Gorka on our map. Okay. And let me back up real quick here. So just the coordinates, I'm sure you might be familiar with this, but this is going to be your X coordinate, this first number in the position line. And this third number is going to be your Z coordinate. Those are the ones we're worried about. The one in the middle is your Y, or your elevation. We're not going to worry about that one right now. Okay. And then so what we want to do is we want to get on the iSurvive, we want to get the furthest easternmost building of our coordinates for the vertical. We want to get that coordinate, and then we want to get the furthest easternmost for these 2 vertical lines here. So we're basically, what we're doing is we're looking to kind of look at a vertical line that would go from one side of Gorka to the other. And we want to erase all of the buildings on the other side of that line. So let's do that. Let me show you how we do that. So really helpful way they set this folder up, and let me show you real quick, or not folder, but file rather, is if you look at this first number, it's 80.262581, and then it sort of goes down, and this number gets larger as we go. So here we're at 80, now we're in 200, and here we are in 3 and 400, And so as we go, that number gets bigger. Now that's extremely helpful because we can get to where our coordinates are, and let's take a look on iSurvive and delete everything before that. Now let me explain that. Okay, so here's our furthest easternmost building, this land fuel. So if you're familiar with Gorka, you know there's a little gas station down here. There are some tents up here. I'm not going to leave them in here. You can if you want. I'll show you how to do that, but I'm not going to leave them here. I kind of want everybody focused on this area and all of the fighting to be happening here and within the town. So I don't really want any loot spawning in down there. I don't want people running down there and finding hiding places in the woods. And I'd rather people really just kind of go at it in the town. So I'm gonna start right here. Now, little tip on iSurvive map. I don't know if you know this or not. Perhaps you do, but you'll notice as you're scrolling along and your little cursor there, it's an open hand. But when you get to an area that you see the pointer, this is on the contaminated zone. If you click when you see that pointer, it'll tell you what you're looking at. Where this is helpful is with buildings. So for instance, here's our gas station, our fuel station. If you click on the icon, it actually brings up that gas station, which is super helpful because what it does is it gives us the actual name, the file name right here. And we actually want to go ahead and copy that right there. And then what we want to do is we want to look at those coordinates one more time. Now the coordinates are down here. If you're not familiar with iSurvive, this first number here is your X. The second is your Z. For this one, we want to try to remember, you don't have to, it doesn't have to be exact, so you don't have to write this down or anything because it's going to be a little off anyways. But we want to ballpark what that coordinate is. So just hover over the fuel station. And if we look at that, it's 10,439.80 is our X. Our Z coordinate is going to be 8,885. So what we want to do, let's focus first on that first number, 10,439. Let's get back into our file. And now we can scroll all the way down. What we're looking for is the 10,000s. And here we are in the 900s. Oh, hold on. First of all, first thing we actually want to do to make this easier is go Control F. That brings up your find. Control V. Remember, we copied that fuel station build there. And then we want to say find next, and it's going to find the first entry of the fuel station build right here. If we look at our coordinates, this is only 1121. We want 10,000. So we're going to keep going down until we get to the 10,000. So we're at 3,000, 4,000. You get the idea. Okay, here we are in the 10,000s. Now, you see there's a couple other entries up here. Let's just go up one more. We're actually on the one we need now. But let's go up to the top one because it is a 10,000. Now, you see the entry here is 10,119. But if you look over here at the Z coordinate, it's only 5,199. So we know that is not where we want to be. That's a completely different area of the map. So we want to go down to, oh, we don't want to go up. Excuse me. Let's go back down, down. There we go. So 10,442. Remember, our ballpark number was 10,439 and 8,885 or whatever it was. So we know this is our fuel station that we're looking at on the iSurvive map. That's the one. Let's get back in there. So there it is, 10,432 or 33. So you get the idea. That is, or 42, that's what it was. So if we move this right, but we don't need to do that, you get the idea. That's the building. So what we want to do now is we want to actually delete everything below this entry. Now, remember I told you those tents, if you wanted to keep them, you could. Here's those 2 tents right there. So if you wanted to keep those tents, what you would do is every entry below those tents, just delete it. Okay, now I've already done this, so I'm not going to take the time to do it, but for the sake of time, we'll delete a big chunk here. And you're going to scroll all the way down until you see the word map, and then click delete, get rid of that. And I'm going to get this out of my view so we can see. And what you should have is a picture that looks like this. You should see the word map right here as well if you've done that properly. I'm not going to go through, I mean, this is a huge file. I'm not going to sit here for a minute and mess around with that. I've already done that. I'll show you my file in just a moment. So that's our first one. That's our easternmost, our furthest east. Now we want to get our westernmost building, and we're going to delete everything up above that one. So let's go back into iSurvive, back out here a bit, and now scroll in here, and here is our westernmost building, this barn right here. So again, we'll click on the icon. It brings up the picture of the barn, and it brings up the name as it appears in the game, which is super helpful. So we're going to copy it, and then we're going to hover over those coordinates and try to remember roughly what we have. So we've got 9,277, and then we've got 8,818. So 9277 is what we want to look for. Back into that, we're going to scroll all the way up to the top. And we're going to say Control F, and then Control V. We'll paste that right in there. We see it right here, Land Barn Brick 2. That's our building. And now remember, we're looking for 9277. Land Barn Brick. So there's the first entry for it, and that's all the way in the 1200s. So we've got quite a ways to go. So let's go down until we get into the 9000s. You just keep clicking next until you see it. So we're in the 7000s, thousands. Here we are. 9279, and then 8819. Okay, so you see this here. These are our coordinates, 9279 and then 8819. Let's get back into the iSurvive and make sure that is our building. 9279. So you can see again, we don't need to be exact. 8819. So that is our building. Okay. So now what we want to do is everything above this land barn brick, everything above it, you want to go ahead. Oh, there we go. You want to go ahead and delete it. Just scroll all the way up. Now, again, don't delete anything beyond that word map. You only want to delete these entries that say group name. If you do that, your file will not work. Okay, so you need to leave those other entries. I'll show you what I mean one more time up top. This here, you need to leave it in. If you try to paste that in, your file is not going to work. Okay, so the only things you're deleting are these entries here below map. All right, so you're going to delete all those. I'm not, again, this file is huge. It'll take forever. I'm just going to show you my saved version that I've already got ready to go so I don't waste your time. Here it is. Okay, so I've already done that. So here we are, Land Barn Brick 2. Everything above that was deleted. And then if we scroll down to the bottom here, we've got our land fuel station build. Everything below that was deleted. So that is basically everything again. So just to give you kind of a picture here, picture a vertical line here on this side of this building, and then another vertical line here on this side of this building. Everything on the map from top to bottom to the east of this line is now deleted. Everything to the west of this line, top to bottom, is now deleted. What that doesn't solve for us, though, is the northern and western buildings in between those lines. So now we need to account for that. And this is the hard part, guys. This is what's going to take the longest. I'll try to show you a couple tips and tricks, but it's going to take forever, and I'm sorry. So, a couple things you can do, honestly, that would, that, or a couple things you might want to think about when you're making these deathmatch servers is, how many buildings are there, right? If you've got a smaller area and there's only a few buildings, for instance, a lot of people use the Northeast Airfield to do their builds, and they put custom buildings in there. The reason that that's helpful is there's only about 6 buildings on there, and it's really easy to go through, find just those buildings, and delete everything else. And then you've got to work on your custom buildings. So definitely something to think about. You want to pick an area like the Northwest Airfield, or that's got a lot of buildings, and you want all of those buildings. If you want loot in them, they have to be entered like this. They have to. Now let me back up a bit and explain why we're doing this. Okay. So if we didn't do this, if we just left all of those buildings in this file, map group positions, and we went into our types file and we put in, let's just say 200 M4s. And then we went in and we created our custom tag, which we'll do in another video, and we put that on the M4. Every single building on the map that has that tag of military would spawn an M4. And we don't want that, right? Because we want all of our gear spawning in this area. We don't want it spawning up in Tizzy because that's not where our players are going to be. They're going to be here fighting. So that's why this is important, okay? Because you only have so much loot to go around. I know 250 M4 sounds like a lot, but when you've got 20, 32 people battling it out, dying left and right, running and picking up guns, those guns go quick. Trust me, I run 5 deathmatch servers and they go very quick. So that's why we're doing this. So just so you know, so I did a Western deathmatch server up at the biathlon, the ski resort biathlon, and there's only a few buildings there. So this portion of it actually went pretty quick. So just so you understand why we're doing what we're doing. Okay, so let's get back into it. So now we need to know how to eliminate the buildings above these two lines, the horizontal lines. So let me just give you an example here. So let's see. Land mill tent. Oh, cool. I didn't know there were military tents in Gorka. Well, there isn't. You see here uh, the coordinates for the X, 10,475. Sounds like it could be in Gorka, but then if you look over here at the Z, it's 2,354, which means it's somewhere completely different on the map. This is where that blank file that we saved earlier is going to come into play. Again, you don't have to do it this way. You can do what you can do instead. Essentially, what we're doing here is we're going through and we're finding the buildings that are in fact in Gorka, and we're keeping those and we're getting rid of the others. So one way to do that is just to simply go in here, find the coordinates that are not right, and just delete them and save this file. For me, it's just a little bit cleaner, and I don't know, this is just how my brain works. I prefer to cut it out of this file and paste it into the brand new one. And so that's why we have that blank one, okay? So let me open up the blank one and kind of show you what we're talking about. Okay, so we've got our blank one here. We're going to start with the two knowns. We know that these buildings on the end, we know these are in Gorka because we already lined them up. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to cut that out. And then we're just simply going to paste it in here. There it is. So now that's in there. And then we would want to save that. And then we're going to go up top. And we know that our top one, the barn, we know that is in fact a Gorka building. Okay. And the other reason I like to do it this way is if you think about it, you look at the Gorka map, and realistically, there's 20, 30 buildings, maybe a few more on here. There's not that many. So to me, it's a lot less time consuming to go in and cut 20 or 30 buildings out of this mound of buildings and paste them somewhere else than it is to go in and delete all of the ones that aren't. So that's my reasoning. Again, you can do it either way, either one works as long as you end up with the buildings that are only in Gorka. So here's another quick way to figure this out and kind of help yourself speed this along. So what we want to do now is we want to kind of look and imagine a straight line going horizontal this way in Gorka. And so let's just check that coordinate. So let's say right here, there's no buildings past this point, it's just fields. So if we look down at our coordinate, now we're not looking at the X coordinate anymore, we're looking at the Y coordinate. So that is right about 9,000, 9,002-ish, okay? If we move in a straight line, try to keep it at 9,000, you see that that's a pretty good number. So what we want to do is any Z coordinates that are um, more than 9,000, we want to delete them. So now let me explain. So we're going to go into our other file. So again, this Z1 here. So this is 14,542. So we know we can get rid of that. That's not in Gorka because it's not at 9,000. Well, okay, now let me back up. Let me back up. Hold on. We know that's we know that's one line. So needs to be two of them. So hold on just a minute. So now let's go look at the bottom half of Gorka. And our coordinates there are, let's say, just go in a straight line here at the cutoff. So about 8,600. So between 9,000 and 8,600, or 8,600 and 9,000. So anything before 8,600 is not going to be in Gorka, and anything above 9,000. So that entry we were just looking at with the 14,000, that's not in Gorka because it's more than 9,000. Okay, so hopefully that makes sense. So, just picture kind of a box around Gorka with those coordinates. And then, so what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to go in and delete every one that is more than 9,000. Or if you want to do it the way I did it, again, personally, for me, it's a lot easier and it's a lot less work to cut out the ones that are Gorka buildings. So you're going to look for any building that is under 9,000 or over 8,600. Okay. And then you're going to cut that out and you're going to paste it into that blank one. And when you're done, see, I've already done this. When you're done, you're going to end up with something that looks like this. Okay. So this is my completed version. This is all of the buildings in Gorka, and you see there's a lot less of them. And so to me, it's a lot easier to cut those out and paste it into the empty one. Again, that's just me. Either way works. But like I said, I'm showing you how I do it, and hopefully that helps. Now, let me explain these tags up here. Um, these are organization tags. A lot of coders use them. I use them to help me stay organized and know what I'm doing. So this entry right here that you're looking at, essentially what that's doing is it's telling the game or the system, ignore anything that comes after this. Okay, don't don't use this for any game use. This is the end of that command right here. So whatever you put in between those two commands, the game is going to ignore it as if it never even happened. Okay, so that can be useful in a lot of ways if you want to like turn on and off certain events or things like that. We'll talk about that in a future video. But for me, I use it to organize because basically it just means skip over this. This is just for my information, not any use in the actual game, and it helps me stay organized so I know where my certain things are. So let me show you. And the reason I'm bringing that up is one of the things I did, because this is going to help us in the next step of this, is what I did is I went down and I organized all of the names of these buildings because we've got some duplicates, and I organized them by, so we see here building names, and I organized them by houses, by sheds, barns, community buildings, and wrecked cars, and then just miscellaneous stuff. So basically I went in from top to bottom and I copied all of the houses, and I made sure that I put down only one of each one. Okay, because again, there's duplicates in here. This, you don't have to do this. This is totally up to you. This just is going to help for the next step, which we're going to get into in just a minute. So you don't have to do it this way. I find it extremely helpful, and for our next step, which is going to be editing the map group proto. So you should end up with something that looks like this. If you followed all the directions correctly, every one of these entries and buildings should be a Gorka building. You can test all of that um, by going into your iSurvive, clicking on the building, and checking those coordinates and seeing that it roughly matches up. That takes forever, but hopefully that helps. Hopefully that's explained that in a way that is easy enough to follow. Now, let's go ahead and get into the second portion of this, okay? I was going to break these up into 2 videos, but I'm going to go ahead and do this in just one. So that's the finished version. So we're going to download another file, this map group proto. So you should have both of those already downloaded. And we're going to make 3 different copies just like we did for the map group POS. Okay, so here's our original. And then we're going to download one in mods, the one that we're going to work off of. And then we're going to download one in our folder, our game folder for our completion. Okay, and we're going to do just like we did with the other one. We're going to make an empty version of it. So here's what that looks like. So basically everything under defaults in that file, I deleted all the way down to the bottom of the page where it says prototype. I deleted everything in between, like literally everything. And again, this file is also a very large file, so there's a lot of info there. So let me explain what this file is and how it works very quickly before we get into this, so you kind of understand, because these files work hand in hand. They're going to work together. And what this is you're going to see, and this is why you saw how I organized the buildings on the bottom of that other page. This is why, because it makes this part a lot easier. So what you're looking at here is you'll see the same entry here, group name, but this is telling the game how much loot to spawn in and where at in the building that loot should spawn. So the first one, the map group position, that says where the building is on the map. This is what tells it to spawn loot in a specific location, whether it be on a shelf, whether it be on the floor, on a cupboard, on a stove, whatever, wherever you see the loot spawning, these numbers here, the point position, these are the coordinates inside the building that are telling that loot to spawn there. Now, one of the things you're going to have to do is you're going to have to max these out. Now, you see here, group, and I'll explain this a little more in detail as we move along, but you see here group name land shed M1. It says loot max 2. That's telling the game that the maximum amount of items you can, or the game should spawn in, is only 2. Then if we look down, we see 1, 2, 3 entries. So that tells us that we could have 3 as our max, but the game at vanilla is only set to tell it 2. So we want to max that out and say 3. For a deathmatch server, we want as much loot as possible. So we don't want to do that right now. I'm just telling you for, as we move along. So, okay, here's what we're going to do. We're going to open up our empty version. Okay, and then we're going to empty or open up our completed map group POS, the file that we already completed from earlier. And what we're going to be using, see, this is why we made these buildings at the bottom. We're going to be using these names to search it on the vanilla version of this map group proto. Okay, so we're going to open up a vanilla version of the map group proto, one of the ones that we saved. Okay, there it is. Close this so we don't confuse ourselves. Now this is going to get a little bit tricky. There's going to be a lot of back and forth, but stick with me. I'll try to make this as simple as I can. So let's start in the houses. So we're going to go to the very first house. We're going to highlight it, copy it. We're going to open our vanilla version of the map group proto. I'm going to say Control F, bring up the search, Control V, that's going to paste the house, and we're going to find that in the map. There it is. So this is the start of the entry right here where it says group name. Down here where it says group, that's the end of the entry. What we want to do is select that entire entry, copy it, and then we want to paste it. into our blank file. Now, again, we're going to go ahead and label this one um, using that same code entry that I showed you before. We're going to say Gorka deathmatch. Okay. Just so we know what we're looking at. So if we ever confuse this file with another one or something, I have a lot of code files on my computer, and so sometimes seeing that tag on there really helps me. Oop. There, and then we'll put end. And again, it doesn't matter what you type in here. You can type whatever you want. Okay, so now what we're going to have to do, so we've got that first entry in there. So we're going to have to literally go down the list of all of these buildings, and we're going to have to copy and paste every single one of them into here. Now, the good news is you're not going to have as many to do because you only need one of each. So for instance, shed M3 or W3, this for M3, okay. There are several entries of that on here, but in the map group proto, there's only one entry because the way the file works is the loot spawns the same in all of them around the entire map. There's just as many loot points and positions. So it's not going to take as long, but it's still going to take a long time. So you're going to need to go through and copy and paste every one of those buildings in here. And then another step you're going to have to do, because this is vanilla, is you're going to have to max out these entries, okay? And that's going to take a long time. So you're going to see here on the vanilla version, loot max 2 right here. But we see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 entries. So we can actually have 6. Okay. And then you'll see up top here, there's no entry. That's interesting. You're going to come across some buildings that don't have an entry like that. What you have to do is copy and paste that entry and count what's there. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and you would put 7 there. Okay, and you're going to have to do that for each of these. And then at the top, you need to add all these numbers up. So let me find one that's a little bit easier to start. Let's do the land house yellow. Because you're not going to have to do that for everyone. And so okay, let's go back up to the top. Control F, Control V, search. There it is, land house yellow. Okay, we see loot max. It's interesting with these houses why it doesn't have the max for all of them. Let me see my completed one, how I finished that. Hold on just a second. I don't want to mislead you at all. Okay, so let's get into one of the houses here. So this is the final version here. This is what it's going to look like when it's all complete, okay? I'm just looking for one of the houses. Well, let's just do this. Let's search that same yellow one here. There we go. Okay, so this is what you'll have to do. So you see here, this is my entry. So see how I put loot max on the side there? And I totaled up all of these numbers and I just added that loot max in. So that's what you'll have to do is right up here at the top after that space, and you'll add that loot max. Just copy paste here. You're not going to have to do this every time you do a deathmatch server, by the way. The houses are a little bit tricky. I don't know why they do that with the houses. Now, this says 22, but that's, remember, you want to count up the actual entries. So let's count them all up because this is the total number of loot points that you can have. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. So there's only 18. So you'd want to put 18 right there. Okay. So I know that part's a little confusing just because these are the houses, but you'll find most of the entries in that map group proto, you're not going to have to add that loot max file or folder there, but I'm kind of glad we came across that right off the bat because that's the way you correct that and fix it. Okay. So for most of them, you're not going to have to add it. It's going to be in there for you already. Like right here, you see land, farm, cowshed C. The loot max is already in there for you. Okay. So I hope that helps. There's a lot more to do here. You're not done because we're going to have to go in and add custom tags for now, but this is the most time consuming part. This video took close to an hour. The actual the actual work is going to take way, way, way longer than that. I mean, when you go in to actually do this, it's going to take you a long time. But once this is done, the good news is once this is done, it's smooth sailing from there. Now, again, if you pick a smaller area, there's less work to do because you have less buildings. So I hope that helps. If you have questions, please don't hesitate to leave them in the comments, or you can subscribe to our Discord and ask the questions there. Always happy to help. And as always, I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful rest of your day.